Hi, this is the market update. We return after the Texas ice storm. Is it over for crypto? Did silver end the crypto market? If you're depressed and you're worried, you're in the right place. Stay right here and I will get you sorted out. Believe it or not, there is a case for a very retail-friendly crypto as this new AI world unfolds. All right, let's get right to it. You're here to hear about silver. Let's talk about silver. One, silver sentiment is going bananas. I have 35,000 TikTok followers. Welcome, people from TikTok. I now have a video that has 250,000 views. The video is about silver. It discusses how for every 1 ounce of physical silver, the financial markets have created 250 ounces of paper silver. So everybody who wants to take delivery is not going to get it. That's one part. That's the obvious part, at least for financial market people. Then there's the non-obvious part in that silver is critical to the AI data center build-out. AI servers use tons of silver. This is a new reality that's actually the sequel to the commodities reality from 2004, when China essentially did state-sponsored capitalism. They essentially printed money, encouraged banks to lend massively to expand their urban centers in an epic fashion so that people from rural areas could come to cities and get jobs. This resulted in like 10% GDP growth for like 10 years. Now, that created pressure in oil. Oil went from 50 to 150. Copper went up dramatically during this time period, etc. This is the sequel. The AI data center build out is bigger than anybody thinks. The AI trade is bigger than anybody thinks. And this does have crypto implications. Like, there are cryptos that benefit from this type of build out. So the main driver in my mind is a delivery panic driven by AI. Now, China is also, in a way, sticking it to the United States and also protecting its own interests by classifying silver as a rare earth metal, or a similar legal classification in China, which means you can't export it without the communist government's blessing or permission. Okay, so you have a supply shock and a supply shock all at the same time. And then you have what I would call monetary debasement demand mania. Maybe I should turn that into an acronym. So the only way out of a debt crisis is to devalue the currency. The United States has a serious debt problem. It has too many liabilities, not enough assets. So if you've ever wondered why we're after Greenland, it's a big mystery. It's just because we need more assets on our books to match up against our debt or liabilities. That's the thinking. Now, everybody is looking at what's going on in precious metals and going, this is the start of a crisis. You know, it's a monetary reset. That all could be true. I mean, I think if gold was at $10,000, you would have more of a panic than you would, I don't know. You would have panic that would be justified if gold was at $10,000. If silver is moving the way it is, it's fun. It's a commodity parabolic. We haven't seen it in a long time, right? It is a revaluation, but I don't think it means what people think it means. The dollar debasement trade really is gold and Bitcoin. Now, I realize all this said with the silver move explained. Let's go to what's next. What's next for silver? What's next for Bitcoin? So silver is not responding to any DeMark topping signals right now. I know that demand destruction occurs in silver, in the markets, or in industry when silver gets to 125. What's demand destruction? That's the point where people either have to stop producing using silver, or they have to stop producing, period, or they have to just switch from silver to copper, which has got hedge fund managers like Stan Druckenmiller on the tape talking about how copper is the next trade. It's the next asymmetric upside. So that's what's next for silver. Technically, I think if it's above 120, it's going to 147. And with the way these things work, if everyone thinks it's going to 120 or 147, then there's always an overshoot. These things always go farther than you think it will. It was that way with oil. When oil went to 150, Goldman, I was there. Goldman had a target of 100. It went to 150. Everybody was scratching their heads. The silver heads on Twitter are like, this is beyond my wildest dreams. TikTok is now interested, as I discussed. So today could have been the God candle, or a God candle could be coming like 25, 30% in one day. You don't know. I do know in commodities and with trends in general, they last longer than you think, and they frequently overshoot whatever the consensus upside targets are, right? It was 120. It'll be 150 in the morning. That's a big Fibonacci extension level. Okay. Now, back to Bitcoin. So everybody in crypto who's exasperated, jealous, and irritated by this move in precious metals raised their hand. Okay. I think over this past weekend, when, me and a lot of other people were dealing with ice apocalypse here in Texas, people just were like, you know what? Blanket. I'm done. I'm rage selling my crypto. It's over. Silver, precious metals have eaten our lunch. We're done. Now, I can understand how you might think that. I also understand that lack of any meaningful price action is going to start bringing in talk of bear markets, crypto winter. I see a lot of Bitcoin maximalist guys have pivoted their podcasts over to this bear market, crypto winter theme. Here's what I'm going to do. How can silver be a new paradigm, a part of the AI data center build out and a new monetary world on one hand, and on the other hand, in crypto, we're sticking to this arcane 4-year cycle thinking. Like it's a new world in every other market, and in crypto, it's 2018. It's not 2018. It isn't. All right. And I unfortunately, the way you know it's not 2018 is if you got to read guys like Ray Dalio. Right? All these macro heads, they've all got their huge victory lap, right? Monetary debasement, currency, money printing coming back to haunt you, geopolitical tensions of epic proportions, talk about Greenland and other war zones. And then, of course, this thing in Minneapolis has become organized political resistance like you would see in an emerging market country, okay, versus an undermanned federal agency. Let's put it that way. Just trying to be super careful, all right? This type of social disorder, I mean, it literally is Ray Dalio's model. Okay. So again, the silver guys, the metals guys, the macro guys, they're all telling you it's a new era. It's a new world, right? Everything has changed. Look how smart I am. Now, I'm jealous. But if it is a new world, shouldn't we be looking at crypto and shouldn't we be looking at silver and saying, what's the next trade? Like, for example, a guy I used to work with is combing the equities universe. And he's saying that, if silver is going to move, then here are a dozen opportunities, really centered around the fact that, we've gone from a world where it was all about apps and code to where it's about, hard assets. It's about hard assets. It's about hard money. Now, in that environment, there are cryptos that can be useful. Just that no one's talking about it and no one's trading it. Just keep in mind, like, everyone is all excited about silver. Silver didn't move for 15 years. And now, obviously, it's moving. So sometimes to get these type of trends, you have to wait. Like Druckenmiller's waiting on copper, right? And then all these other metals are also taking off. Meanwhile, back at the economic ranch, another crypto beneficiary that is not being discussed is this dysfunction over the government shutdown. Now, a government shutdown is a tightening shock. This is one reason why crypto, frankly, sucks. A government shutdown is a tightening shock, meaning all the money that Uncle Sugar normally spends is not out there in the system. This does have implications for banks, and the Fed is just, they just can't stop print. They can't print enough money to prop up the banks. And you've heard all these stories. Auto loan application rejection at an all-time high. People walking away from credit cards. Massive leverage for buyers in the housing market because no one can qualify for a mortgage, right? There's all, sellers outnumber buyers dramatically, and buyers can't buy because they can't qualify. They can't qualify. So if you look at this tightening force in tariffs and shutdowns, and then you look at the fact that there's all this talk that the next Fed chairman is going to be from BlackRock, specifically, whoever winds up the Fed chairman, especially this guy from BlackRock, is going to go with a model where he's going to say technological innovation is driving the economy. That's why it's running a little hot. And higher interest rates do nothing but hurt housing and the common man and won't stop this AI data center build out. So lower rates, let it run a little hot. Let it run very hot, because the higher rates aren't going to stop it. They're not going to stop whatever price pressures are coming at all. Like silver was going up, whether they cut rates or they didn't. Rates per the Orange Man should be at 1%. Now, I don't know if they should be that low, but certainly Powell has screwed up on the whole tightening regime. He kept it way too tight for way too long. And the next Fed guy that comes in is coming in with a bazooka to cut rates. And I can tell you right now, this is absolutely not factored in really to any capital market. It's factored into equities because equities just refuse to go down. Everyone thinks equities should go lower. It's not going down. Magnificent Seven earnings are coming out. Everybody's waiting for a stock market disturbance. Okay. I don't think Magnificent Seven stocks can jump over the earnings bar, but what kind of down trade is that really going to create? The pressure in the system is being vented through metals. And I have to think, if it's the new world that they're telling us it is, then there has to be a crypto winner in there. Now, there isn't going to be a mass rotation from gold and silver into every altcoin. That's not going to happen, right? Not until the Fed comes in and actual liquidity hits the system. Right? It's not going to happen. So, that's May. However, there are plays, which I think Bitcoin is obviously one of those plays, where if you decide, if you agree that this is not 2018. So, for you, if you think it is, then you're waiting for Bitcoin to sit still for a while and then lose half of its value in 6 weeks. Because that's what happened in 2018, right? Crypto just broke and everyone was just like, I give up, and that's the end. Okay. Maybe that happens. But again, if the new world is here, how can anybody possibly want to give up on crypto, right? Because crypto is an incredibly critical part of the new world for two reasons. One, crypto contains software, particularly Bitcoin and anything that can run a stablecoin network, that cannot just be replicated by some chatbot. Like, software is garbage. Software is free. Software stocks are in free fall. And everybody thinks it's overdone. It's not, right? I mean, how can you be charging for a service that's going to be free in 5 years and have the stock market not adjust to that, right? Like, every stock in software is going to experience what, and you may not even know what these things are, Nokia cell phones. They were the first cell phone to come out. Huge company. Huge. BlackBerry, right? Email and calling, mainly email and text on the same device. You carried your BlackBerry and your iPod. So Nokia, BlackBerry, gone. Right? All these things that went away, okay? The same thing is going to happen in many ways in software. It's, some of this stuff is going to go away. And that's going to leave demand for any software that can't be replicated by a chatbot, which is Bitcoin. Then there's going to be different forms of hard money. Then there's going to be different types of infrastructure. Because I still think that even though it's not traded now and nobody cares and everyone's watching silver, you trade narratives when nobody cares. For example, here comes a shocker. Okay, ready? What about XRP? In other words, I just did like a research study, and I said, okay, if it's kind of a new world, give me some ideas. Like, what fits this new world? Well, XRP solves a settlement bottleneck in banking. Chainlink is along the same lines. So if there's a problem in banking with speed, what solves that in crypto? You might even be able to throw Stellar in there as well. Like, no one talks about this. It's like, oh, it's a new world. It's amazing. Okay. And then there's, of course, two plays that we're constantly talking about, which is Tau, decentralized, intelligence has got to be a decentralized component of AI. You can't have silver at $150 because of the AI data center build out and absolutely no reaction forever in crypto, right? And Akash, like DPIN, the AI marketplace, it's also amazing. It didn't come up in the list, but how people just threw in the towel on Solana and just completely gave up on that with that move down to 120. Unbelievable. Wow, folks, is this not the new world? Like, silver is in 2050 and crypto is in 2018. The two of them don't jive, right? I mean, you're going to go up to somebody and say, oh, yeah, no, silver's BS. It's just going to, roll over any minute now. No, wrong. Because it's part of the build out, right? It's we thought they were going to do Bitcoin first. They're doing hard assets needed for the build out. You know what? A little shocking about the price action, but not shocking in terms of the trade itself. Now, guys like Dalio want you to think that there's nothing you can do or there's nothing that can be done. I don't think that's true at all. I think one of the things that Dalio is missing is Bitcoin. He talks about it when it goes up, but doesn't mention it when it goes down. or when, everything he talks about is happening and he doesn't connect it over to Bitcoin. And then there's this whole idea about this theme that we've been pounding the table on incessantly, which is privacy. All of these privacy coins have corrected. Dash went back to its 50-day moving average. Monero had a huge correction. Zcash is way off its high and has been consolidating and pushing people out. People, if silver is at 150 because of the emergence of AI, if we don't trade privacy, if we don't trade speed, hard money, and privacy, and stablecoins, speed, hard money, stablecoins, privacy. We don't trade those four things, we're morons. We're morons. And if you give up on crypto just because, your bag is languishing as Peter Schiff and all these macro boomers are having a great time on Twitter, you're probably making a mistake. Now, how did I come to that conclusion? Because I feel the same way. I mean, these guys on Twitter, they make me sick. I mean, I'm glad they got their victory lap. I'm glad they got their rally. A lot of these guys were calling for $100 and they got laughed at. I thought they were right the whole time. That said, I'm jealous. I'm insanely jealous. I'm like, wow, we got left in the dust and all this capital, fled over to silver, along with everybody from TikTok. That's just crazy. Now, what did I do? What did I do to get out of that? Well, the Eagle King sent me something. I'm not going to put up the graph that talks about auto loan applications being rejected at, the highest rate ever. I'm saying you can't buy a car or a house in the United States. And if they don't start cutting rates, that's only going to get worse. So when they do have to cut rates, I continue to believe that is the bazooka that is going to levitate. That's going to levitate crypto. And that's going to make the metals rally look like a warm-up, which frankly, I think it is. It's not for the reason everyone thinks it is. Well, like, oh yeah, well, all these trading profits from metals are going to rotate into my alts bag. No, that's not how it's going to work. It's just that this AI build out trade, once it hits crypto, it's going to be epic. Like it hit stocks, Magnificent Seven, Nvidia, and chip companies. Okay. Then it moved over into raw materials and supplies, which, creates geopolitical tension. And then crypto as a part of this monetary reset, or as a part of faster, more private, more scarce, and code that you can't replicate. When that trade actually happens, because it will be fueled by liquidity, you have a case to not quit. Because I know that you feel like quitting. You snowed in your house, the parking lot or the street outside is an ice skating rink. You're watching a bunch of 80-year-old guys laugh it up on Twitter. Don't buy into that, because we have something that they don't. We have true scarcity in Bitcoin, and we have privacy, and we have the stablecoin trade, which again, nobody wants to talk about. Now let's move to the Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent, so we can do Bazooka Part 2. So there's going to be a Fed bazooka, right? Meaning they're coming in. If he has to nominate the CEO of BlackRock or the CIO of BlackRock, and his instructions are levitate everything. Then there's the Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent, a former hedge fund manager, like a 6'6" guy with, kind of a major temper and aggressive posture when necessary. A public service announcement that the Treasury Secretary is also the head of the IRS. Many people didn't know this. And I think Bessent is going to turn around and give every eligible American, I think it's going to be $5,000. I think they're just going to open the floodgates and they're going to try to rescue anybody who needs to get rescued, even if it creates, meme stock mania like it did the last time they did stimmy checks. They are going to do these huge checks before the election because you have certain components of markets that do not function. Not functioning. Cars are not functioning. Housing is not functioning. This thing about credit card debt, where the orange man is on the tape talking about 25% credit card interest rates, that it's borderline illegal, and people are just walking away. They're just walking away. And banks are like, oh my God, you're going to this or that, or nobody's going to get a credit card. Okay, bro. Well, it's like, if you're willing to give me a credit card at 30% interest, then I might as well go to a loan shark. Like, literally, the orange man is saying, once upon a time, these interest rates were illegal. They were illegal, right? I mean, people at the lower end need these $5,000 checks. And I think this posturing about credit card interest rates is nothing more than political maneuvering to get checks in people's hands, period. And then, of course, there's the orange man's distaste for banks in general, which leads back to Scott Bessent again and this idea of stablecoins, because they've got to roll over. I think I saw a statistic that they've got to roll over 1/3 of the Treasury's $38 trillion in debt over the next couple of years. Certainly, they got to do 9 to 10 trillion this year, and it's an undiscussed topic. Now, it is discussed because people are looking at silver, which is driven by AI data center build out and going and delivery stress. And everyone's going, oh my God, it's a great monetary reset. This is the only way to trade this monster epic event where you have kind of like a global debt crisis. Like, silver is the only way. No, silver is the only thing that's happening today. But for anybody who knows anything about markets, you don't want to trade today. You want to trade what's going to be happening in 6 months. Even if sitting around waiting is painful. Because, I mean, if you listen to Stan Druckenmiller, who's a famous hedge fund guy, he's never had a down year. It's crazy, right? My age, never had a down year. He says they go to work and they read and they wait. They look for asymmetric opportunities where, people are not long or people are not short. And then there's a huge fundamental case for, a gigantic move once everyone piles in one way or the other. What does he do for a living? He waits. Now, what does nobody in crypto want to do really except Michael Saylor? Wait. No one wants to wait. No one wants to watch a live stream about waiting. Nobody. Right? But if it really is a new world, if it is the new world, if all these silver guys are right, then you have to wait. Like, people with XRP waited at 50 cents and they went from 50 cents to $3 overnight. And the day there becomes a reason for crypto, whether it's a liquidity injection or whether the AI agent world comes to banks or there's some kind of AI singularity moment, which I think is really what's required. I think you need an AI revelation that's shocking, because Elon is on the tape all the time talking about how, twice a day or twice a week, his mind is blown because science fiction is becoming reality, right? And this is not going to be released upon the general public. This is going to be an invisible thing that's happening. No. So if you have, I'm just calling it a singularity moment where privacy, scarcity, right, liquidity, stablecoins all become necessary. It'll all become necessary all at once, fueled by the AI singularity and liquidity. Meanwhile, we're all quitting. We're all quitting. When you really have to just look at what the silver guys are saying and extrapolate it over to crypto. Just extrapolate it over to crypto. It's like, okay, well, if it's a new world, terrific. You guys want to reset everything? Terrific. The government doesn't function. They have to shut it down every time they have to fund it. Terrific. Terrific. Right? That leads everybody to the Bitcoin white paper. And I swear to God, it has gotten to the point, it did get to the point with me where I had to pick up and read a couple pages of I have Bitcoin Standard Part 2 that I bought. I had to read something about Bitcoin or watch a Maxi podcast so we can focus on money, not Minneapolis. I know what's going on over there is serious, but it's a distraction. And I continue to want to avoid distractions. If anything, we should be locked in on what's important, which is this new era that's being broadcast by Silver. Okay. So that is the main chunk of the rant. And then we have to face the reality in Bitcoin, in that there was kind of a cone and they broke down to the downside. So, I can sit here and talk all this, about how, this is the future. Right now, this just sucks. Right now, if you look at silver, which is really all anyone cares about at the moment, here's Silver Futures Weekly, right? So this, if you've ever wanted to know what DeMark sequential looks like, okay, if you want to know what DeMark sequential looks like, this is it. You start off with the first part of a trend that's called setup. Then you have a pause. And then you have, 13 up weeks or 13 up bars. Now, silver hit the top warning last week. Obviously, no one cares about that right now. The blow off top level is 118. So hopefully people on the vertical stream can see that. Now, when you see no one caring about topping signals, that's when you know you're in the middle of a fundamental revaluation. I had to learn this lesson the hard way when I was at Goldman when oil took off. So is silver overdone? Yeah, sure it is, right? Silver's a commodity and it's a straight up buying panic. Is it a dollar devaluation? A little bit. I mean, if it was a dollar devaluation, gold would be at 10,000 and Bitcoin would be at 250. That's a dollar devaluation. This is a commodity buying panic connected to the AI build out, period. And it's taken the whole sector with it. And you know what? Again, back to this AI trade, that's what happened in equities, right? First, it was Magnificent Seven. Then it was in NVIDIA. Then it was all the other chip stocks. Then it was energy, right? Because there are plays inside of crypto, inside of crypto equities. Like we were looking at, Iren is one stock that came out. This stock is way off its high. Energy, AI, things like that. And then there's, I just call it Cipher for lack of a better pronunciation. These stocks, this stock went from 4 to 24, and now it's consolidating. So could this move have been the great repricing? And is this just distribution? Yeah, maybe. Or if the energy that created this move is still out there waiting for the next one. So that aside, if you have an energy build out, nuclear, silver, this has to spill into crypto. Now, someone is asking me, when do I sell my AI coins? When do I get out of my meme coins? I just learned a lesson with a meme coin. Guys, you gotta stay away from garbage. I'm talking to myself. Don't get bored. Don't go to garbage. Now, I do think that there will be a AI-based speculative mania once the Fed hits, once the stimmy checks come, and in the meantime, it probably is altcoin winter. Like, there's no upside catalyst in crypto, in altcoins right now, and there is not going to be a rotation from silver profits into anybody's bag. That's not happening, right? It's going to be fueled by AI and liquidity. So if you have AI coins and AI trades that you believe in, and you don't need the money to pay the rent, then, not investment advice, but Michael Saylor didn't give up on Bitcoin. Peter Schiff didn't give up on gold. Stan Druckenmiller didn't give up on NVIDIA. Stan Druckenmiller is sitting in copper waiting for that to happen. These things are going to happen. And a lot of them are going to happen this year. Like, Bessen's talked about the tax refund bazooka. The next Fed chairman is going to get rates down to 1% if the orange man has to point his son to the Fed. He doesn't care. Rates are going lower. And you know what? They need to be lower because government shutdowns and tariffs are tightening forces in the economy. You have 3 tightening forces in the economy. The Fed has rates too high, tariffs, and government shutdowns. You cannot have this, or the midterm elections are going to be a disaster. You're going to have a pivot towards a political system that's currently writing checks for social disorder in the Midwestern United States. A period. I mean, that's what's going to happen, right? They either get their act together, get rates down, get money in people's hands, or people are going to vote for anything else. They're just going to turn around and they're going to vote for whatever rhetoric gets money in their pocket, regardless of who it is, or what they stand for, or what liberties they may or may not want to take away from you, right? Like, Elon is like the EU is after Elon and Grok for disinformation. I mean, this is like really happening. These things, like, if like you're over in Europe, you should be on antivirus.ai trying to get a free SIM card, trying to figure out Monero, trying to figure out Zcash, trying to figure out anything that we can figure out to be free people. Like, this matters. And it matters to such a degree that no matter what you think of the current people in power, I do believe that even though they appear completely self-absorbed, you-know-whats, that they are slightly more pro-American and patriotic than perhaps the other side of the aisle, right? In other words, there ain't going to be any red, white, and blue if they don't get rates down and money in people's hands, period. And most likely people's crypto bags higher, much higher. And that, just like silver, is going to come in all at once. So the idea from the silver rally is silver wasn't even gradually, then suddenly. Silver just went from 40 to 150 or 120 kind of on a rope. I mean, it was orderly until now, but it wasn't, it wasn't like, oh yeah, this is boring. Oh yeah, this doesn't matter. I mean, to anybody who understood what was going to happen, it was going to go parabolic. It went more parabolic than people think. But again, that's par for the course, right? Crypto stays down longer than you think it can. Silver goes up longer than you think it can. Now, when the trade turns over to crypto, or maybe when the trade goes over into all capital markets, I mean, if everybody gets $5,000 and they cut rates 150 basis points, you're going to have a mania in capital markets, most likely. A potentially dangerous mania. But I mean, I don't think you have to worry about that until October. Listen to me. I'm talking about the dangerous mania to come in the middle of what looks like winter and max depression. This isn't even fear. I mean, I swear to God, when silver took out 100 and I stopped, I could not look at Twitter. Stopped looking at Twitter. Like, let me find something else to do online. Let me just find something else to do. Let me go scrape ice off my car. You know what I'm saying? Like anything but have to listen to that talk. Because they are making you feel like crypto is dead, that it's not necessary, that it's all over, that precious metals have won, when in reality, there never was a battle between precious metals and crypto. That was just engagement farming bunk. I've said this before. Everyone was like, sell gold and silver to buy Bitcoin. Wrong. These things are reserve assets and have industrial applications. Don't do it. Right now, everyone's like, well, dump your Bitcoin and give up on crypto and jump on this precious metals thing because it's going up forever. Well, it may go up for a day, a month, a year. I don't know. Oil went up for a long time. These things can last 2 years. But they could be foretelling about not only the size of the AI trade, but with the monetary bazooka that's going to follow it. In other words, everyone's like, oh, doom, gloom, this is the end. It's a dollar devaluation. I'm like, yeah, it is. But it's long overdue. I mean, silver is not a big enough asset to be able to do a dollar devaluation. It isn't. It isn't. Right? It's the size of NVIDIA. You can't devalue the US dollar versus a $4 trillion asset. You got to devalue the US dollar by knocking down the debt, raising equity prices, gold, Bitcoin, like all of the capital markets have to participate to get a real dollar devaluation. So again, this talk like it's over because, okay, you just get rid of that. It's not over. In fact, I would argue it hasn't begun yet. And I think that's the point that I need to leave you with. I mean, we're not ending the stream, but if you think that this is over, you're not paying attention to the fact that it is literally a new world. Silver's telling you it's a new world. If they need that much silver, if they're going to break the most manipulated trade in history because of the AI data center build out, what else are they going to break? And we haven't even talked about Japan, right? The Fed is spooling up the printer to effectively or spinning up mechanisms to sell dollars and buy the yen to stop the yen from completely plummeting. Like, if there was ever a case for Bitcoin, it's for the Japanese public to wake up and go, F this. Like, this is a stream where the F word really needs to be used multiple times. Really. Okay. There are big countries with big populations that are just going to be like, you know what? We need something different. And we need it like now. So for more on like the specific altcoins and the big strategy papers, that stuff is in Patreon. There is a privacy coin primer in the $25 tier. I can't believe how nice I was, and I put it in that section. It's also like big reports about like what the next altcoin move is off this AI data center build-out. I mean, we can't publish enough stuff. And then, of course, there's the YouTube member area where similar information is delivered podcast style. YouTube member podcast coming up, you know, sometime like probably in the next 24 hours. Hopefully power and internet and all that holds up. We'll be online with the podcast. I wanted to get on here as soon as possible. You have a public that's fed up. You're fed up with your bag. I understand that. You're fed up with Peter Schiff. I definitely understand that. But you can't listen to these guys tell you it's a new world and not own crypto or give up on crypto. That's just, it doesn't make any sense, right? Huckleberry Native, a Spartan colonel who's been here for a year, prefers copper over silver, right? Joey wishes the Spartans well. What's going on? Right. Welcoming Cisco Wolf, ADL. Hello. Grandpa Keeter in the house. Right. The great Santini is here. River is killing it. You're right. That was a Toby coin. River was a coin we picked in early January. You know, and a lot of coins popped and went down. And, you know, River is the next interoperability trade. Got news for you, folks. There's always a bull market somewhere. And when the bull market comes to crypto, even if they wait us out, everyone's like, oh, well, you know, maybe it happens now. Maybe it happens later. Just remember, with silver, it's going to happen. Silver is a stodgy old commodity, and it's moving like a commodity, and that's fine. And it's going up 5% a day, and that's fine. But we all know that when crypto gets going, when someone goes, hey, you know, this AI trade, this thing is for real. You haven't seen the Optimus Robot yet. You know, everyone thinks, oh, well, you haven't seen the Optimus Robot because it doesn't work. Okay. The reason you haven't seen the Optimus Robot is because it probably works so well that it would be shocking. It would be shocking. Probably won't see Optimus. You might not see Optimus until like later on. But you know that's going to work because Elon is on the tape telling you, hey, you know, twice a week, my mind is blown. His mind is blown. This is the guy that's turning, you know, he's like me and my brother. It's like this guy's turned into kind of a hero of mine. Seriously, right? Because, you know, he's turning science fiction into science, into something that actually happens. He may never touch crypto beyond the Bitcoin that he already owns. But when you listen to this guy talk about the future is no longer an abstraction. Science fiction is not an abstraction anymore. It's actually happening. So if it's actually happening, why are we all going, oh, yeah, you know, every time, like, you know, he tweets this like rocket going into space. How is everyone not looking at that in a very enthusiastic kind of way? Well, it's easy. We're depressed by silver. That's easy. I understand what you're saying. Believe me, I do. Right? John Legend, Knox Bill, what's up? Gavin Busby, a member in the house. Alex Crypto, right? Hobby Banter, right? Arian, welcome. Shelly Farmer Allen at One Woman Hedge Fund, what's going on? Bull Runner first on the stream as usual. Oh my God. Art from the Amsterdam airport night shift. Brother, that is, I mean, there's cold, and then there's the Amsterdam night shift cold. John Legend wishes Microsoft well on the way out. Right? You know, Cisco Wolf looking at Dash with a solid retracement. Dude, crypto wants to do this trade. They want to do it, right? Crypto is telling you. Zcash, everyone's forgotten about Zcash. Not as a coin, but everyone's forgotten about the excitement from last year, right? Yes, it had a good social media story. Yes, the guys from Gemini were behind it. Yeah, I know, right? It had a lot of oomph behind that pump, but it 20x'd out of nowhere, right? And Monero went from 100 to 800 in a manner similar to silver, and we've all assumed that can't happen anywhere else. A reminder, Galaxy Digital thinks total privacy coin market cap could get to 100 billion. So again, go through the list. Silver says it's a new world, right? Got guys with electric cars and rockets and AI are telling you that the singularity is here. It's here, for God's sakes. And then there's, again, scarcity, Bitcoin, stable coins, government debt. And I don't think you're hearing this anywhere on crypto. I really don't. I mean, I look at like the thumbnails and I look at this stuff that's trending and everyone's like, it's over. It's done. Bitcoin's broken. What? How is Bitcoin broken? Okay. Joey is here. Verhoofty, Braveheart in the house. Coin operated. Rock Lobster. Hourglass. Boom, boom, boom. Bubba is here from the great state of Minnesota. Sir, keep your head down and, think like a Texan if you have to, right? Leonardo says, what's the best crypto to invest in? Okay, well, we can't do investment advice, but we can talk about scarcity. That's Bitcoin. We can talk about stable coins. That's Ethereum, Solana, and XRP. Everybody wants to give up on these coins. Everybody wants to assume that there isn't going to be a Ripple IPO. I got news for you. If these Magnificent Seven earnings come out and the stock market does not go down, you can expect more crypto IPOs. I heard BitGo went IPO the other day. The stock market does not go down, there's going to be another wave of crypto IPOs. Now, I don't think it's going to be this Bitcoin treasury garbage, that this kind of stuff that proliferated unnecessarily. But you got 4 coins right there. And then we discussed XRP, we discussed Tau, we discussed Akash, right? And then, there are the crypto connected equities. So there's crypto plus energy plus AI. That's Iren and Cipher. This is not investment advice. And then, there's the ultimate wait and see trade, which is MicroStrategy, right? Like I know MicroStrategy is caught up in this whole, what's the value of the Bitcoin that it holds versus Bitcoin itself. There's the Bitcoin ETF. Now, what coin should you not invest in? Okay, stay out of vaporware governance tokens. If the token is not a part of a scarcity or doesn't provide some sort of solution, don't do it. Start rotating into something that does, even if you don't agree with whatever I'm saying. Some of these layer ones maybe that are like ghost chains, like layer ones that don't do anything are going to lose out to maybe the faster layer ones like Injective and Caspa. Those are just examples. I could be wrong. But, you got to find yourself a layer one that machines are going to use. Because, once machines start trading, once you walk into a Starbucks and, an Optimus Robot gives you your coffee, once these things actually start happening, the demand for the things that people are going to use, the demand, the investment demand for the products that machines are going to use is going to go parabolic. So what should you invest in? You should invest in the stuff you should think like a machine. Go to a chatbot and say, I'm an AI agent and I'm going to participate in financial markets and I believe in decentralization. What should I do? Boom. We do some of it. I mean, we obviously do this at kind of a high level. I like to think our work is really good, right? In both Patreon and in the YouTube member area where, if you don't want to do this, we do it for you, right? So I can't give you investment advice, but I can give you research, right? I can give you research all day, every day, except there's an ice storm and I have no internet. that's the only time I can't do it. But if we got internet and we're functioning, get on this trade. Get on the new era. I mean, I gave you 4 or 5 coins tonight. I'm not being a jerk. I gave you stuff. Stuff is out there. It's out there, right? And these old narratives that people have given up on because, price hasn't validated their theory. I got news for you. This is going to be the final word. The guys who made real money from gold and silver are guys who started getting long in like 2010 and held it for 16 years. They bought coins. They bought monster boxes. I read a book once. I think the guy's name was McHugh. This book came out a long time ago, 2005. He was telling people to buy what he called junk silver, giant bags full of coins like US 5 cent, 10 cent quarters from like the 60s and the 70s. You can buy these things in giant bags, junk silver, because those older coins were made mostly from silver. Imagine having like 2 giant duffel bags full of low-grade silver in your closet. That's what a lot of these guys did. Guys dug a hole in the ground and put these, it's called a monster box. It's like a giant plastic box filled with coins, silver coins. I don't know. I want to say at one point these things were going for like, I don't know. You could get a giant monster box is what they're called of silver coins, maybe for 10,000 US, maybe. As I remember when I was doing that kind of shopping back in the day. Now a monster box of silver coins, you couldn't even get, if you could get one, the price would be just enormous. Absolutely enormous. Wait, I'm looking it up right now. Right. So Perth Mint. So Canadian, here it is. And I'm making this point for a reason. So I don't know if TikTok maybe can't see this, but this is what a monster box looks like. It's just this huge box, right? This is the Canadian Maple Leaf coin, out of stock, $58,000. I can definitely remember when that was 10,000. And guys, 13, 11, 12. Guys bought these things, dug a hole. They just kept buying them. They hodled. They never sold them. Now, of course, when you have physical coins, it's a little bit easier to have to hodl. It's not like, this like throbbing sell button that you have every time it goes down in your pocket like crypto. Like, oh my God, I got to get out. But they hodled it for 15 years. If they hodled it for 15 years and we can't wait 5 months, then we're not a real market. And we are a real market. It's just that I just don't think there's anyone out there connecting what's going on in silver to like the new world that's out there. Okay. Now, here's the counter argument. I've been eating stinky Hershey Kisses on crypto since 2017, and I got it wrong every time. Can't seem to get this right. I don't know how everyone else feels, but I think this whole thing is a scam. Now, crypto does have the aspect of a casino in the sense that the house, the venture capitalists, it's easy to get fooled. It just happened to me. It's easy to get fooled. It's easy to get pulled in to FOMO. It's easy to think, hey, this could be the next big thing. But who has made money in crypto? Who has made money? Well, there was the guys who bought Bitcoin at $500. They hodled it to 20,000. Then they hodled it all the way down to 3,000. Then they held it to, 19,000. Then they held it through the COVID crash at 3,000. Then they held it all the way up to 70,000. And then on FTX, they hodled it when it went down to 16,000. And then they got their 10X from 16,000 to 120, basically. Okay. And then now at 80, everyone wants to pack it in, and it's never going to happen. And it is going to happen. But it'll be like stocks where you have to own the right sector and the right thing because it's a more mature market. So if you've been in crypto and you've lost money, you have company. You have company. I mean, I'm not broadcasting to you from the Taj Mahal. This is not being broadcast from my yacht. Everybody doesn't win all the time. And sometimes nobody wins in crypto, particularly when you have things like the meme coin casino, where that was literally rigged for someone to dump on you and lose. It still is. Even if you think you got a great case, even if you think you've done your homework, you can still get smoked. However, who has made money? The guys who believe in it and the guys who hodled it and don't let Peter Schiff or the Peter Schiff of the moment change their mind. Because what looks like a scam 1 minute can be the greatest investment opportunity ever, because that's generally how it works. Nobody wanted to buy the apps when they came out in 2010. Nobody thought Apple would be as big as it was. Everybody was like, oh my God, I'm not buying stocks in apps. Well, guess what? 10, 15 years later, how did that turn out? It turned out, epically well. But people had to deal with 20% drawdowns. People in crypto have had to deal with massive crashes. Nothing is free. Nothing is free. This is really what I told myself when I got depressed over this silver thing. I'm like, you know what? You cannot make money on the upside. If it was easy, everyone would do it. You don't want to do the easy thing. The best trade is the tough trade. Right now, the tough trade is to hang in on crypto and hope that it doesn't fall apart or go to pieces off this eclipse that's coming up in 2 weeks. I still think eclipses create reversals. I still think the monetary interest rate Fed Treasury bazooka is coming. And silver is the warm-up, not the end. It's not a source of money for crypto trading. It's a sign that the AI trade is so big, it's going to shake the earth, reorganize everything, and that could only mean crypto's participation in that is inevitable. Please join us in Patreon. If you liked this stream, make sure you like and subscribe to the channel. And, if you don't have 5 cents, you can press a button. If you have more than 5 cents, the best time to get research is when no one thinks you need research. You can get research on the way up. We'd be happy to help you with that. But you get the research before it goes up. Stan Druckenmiller is talking about the homework he's doing in copper, right? Before that parabolic starts, what's Stan doing? Research. That's it for today, folks. We will see you soon.